Australia unfortunately didn't quite make it, weren't able to win the final test match here of the Ashes. It ends up tie of 2-2, and a lot of English fans were like, well, we were going to win that fourth test before the rain came, so take this as you will. It's a very interesting one how obviously Aussies get to keep the Ashes urn there after winning in Australia last time. I suppose, look, if you want to keep the Ashes, you should win the one before. Very, very interesting final day. Obviously, England winning by 49 runs, the swan song of Broad getting the final 2 wickets. There's actually so much to talk about, a little bit of controversy as well, as there has been this whole Ashes series, which is really strange because I think that, from watching the last bunch of Ashes series, there hasn't been as much turmoil and as many things going on. So be interesting to get into that as well. And a part of it was a good reason why England ended up winning that, especially with the ball. So 334 was a very, very good chase, but on a wicket that was pretty good. And conditions for this final day were good bowling conditions, and it seemed that way for a lot of time when England bowled, and something that was strangely noticeable. And England won 4 tosses. That helped as well. That's just how it goes, right? That's just a little bit of luck. And similar to that with conditions on this day and the day before, the Aussie openers in Uzi and Warner were able to really get things going, and it wasn't too difficult until things changed with the ball. So just before we get into that scorecard and the Australian batting innings, just want to shout out player of the series, Mitchell Starc. He had a really, really good series and probably went better than I thought he would. He had a little bit of a lull, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And since then has been a lot more consistent with his bowling, and obviously can, score runs with the bat as well. Didn't happen last night, but, Starkey's been bowling much better. And you can see here with, multiple forfers in this series, he was able to, play the majority of the games and do an incredible job. So well done to Starkey, and player of the match was Chris Woakes. And I think he would have been player of the series for sure if he played an extra match or two for sure. So he only played the last 3. Same for that for Mark Wood. Both of those players had really, really good series. And it showed there that both bowlers there winning player of the series and player of the match, which is very, very cool. So let's look to the scorecard. So we came into this day here with Warner basically on 60 and Khawaja on 69, and it was tough going. So let's get to what I'm saying with the ball, and there's been a lot of memes going around about it, so I'm sure you've seen plenty of it if you are watching this, but Sportsbet's meme was so good, and they always have a cracker. The change of the ball, obviously. How it works, guys, is they bring out a box of balls, and in Australia they have a certain box of balls for each amount of overs. So it might be a box of balls for 10 overs, 20, 30, 40, 50 and beyond. And what happened there is it didn't seem like they had the right ball for where they were at, 20 odd overs, I believe it was. And so it basically looked like they gave him a ball that was sort of 7 to 8, 10 overs old. So a massive difference. You look at it here, it's completely scuffed up. Especially on the one side is what we can see from that picture. And then the new ball that they get had all the writing on it still. So it was pretty well brand new. And you can tell straight from ball one, the commentators were talking about it, we could hear it. The sound of the ball on the bat was absolutely pinging off. It was coming through a lot better. It was moving a lot more. So that in itself is a mistake. And if you are going to change the ball, which is a really big thing, like a lot of people won't understand how much of a big deal that changing the ball is in a test match. And we know that each ball does a little bit of a different thing, and if you are going to replace a ball, it needs to be similar to what it was. Sometimes it comes down, it's a little bit different. We've seen it in certain test matches and stuff, but those balls that they've come out and they've done a little bit extra or something like that, they did look pretty well the same. It's just something to do with one of the sides being a little rougher or something like that as to what caused the difference. But in this case, it was a much newer ball, and that's a mistake that was made, unfortunately, by the umpires. And something needs to be some type of investigation on that. You're listening to Cal Ferguson, a few guys in commentary, and in their little broadcast at lunch and stuff that they go through, and everyone was saying that was a mistake, and I definitely think that played a big factor in what transpired here, especially at the start of this day. You look, okay, well, they changed it sort of late on day 4 there, right? Into that innings, I should say, before we had rain on day 4. And Warner Khawaja were well in, both 50 plus, and we're able to sort of cover that, any extra swing and extra bounce that there was with that ball, because they were in and they'd faced close to 100 balls each. Khawaja a few more, Warner just under 100 by that point. So they were able to get through that. But obviously, a new day comes around, and that type of newer ball, it does make it harder to play. So yeah, just very, very annoying that's how, that's what it came to, and that may have proved the difference here in this test match and on this day. So Warner and Khawaja both fall very early, unfortunately. So Warner goes to a nice ball from Wokes and just continues to bowl incredible all series there. And then another nice LBW from Wokes to Khawaja. And unfortunately I can't really say too much about Warner's one. He does seem to get that back foot across, like I talk about, where he squares himself up a little bit with his back leg. And that just moves his bat a little bit. He ends up, pushing out in front a little bit, which gets him to nick the ball, unfortunately. And Khawaja, very much the same type of dismissal that he's been getting out all the time, that I keep talking about, is he does walk at it a little bit with his hands at least a meter out in front of him, and he's poking at it. And in this case, he missed it. As I said, he'll nick it, he'll get LBW, or he will get bowled. And that's the way he gets out. That's pretty much the only way he gets out, which is absolutely incredible. So, 60 for him. For Warner, 72 for Khawaja, and unfortunately that left us 2 for 141 after being none for 135. So a very tough start. We lose Marnus next at 169, so 13 for him. He's just starting to get into his work a little bit. And this is an interesting one for Marnus, because you look at him batting in Australia, and he clearly has a better average there. And we will get into the averages there in the other tab as to how everyone went in this 2023 Ashes. But when Marnus plays in Australia especially, he leaves that ball. So that one he nicked today, it seemed away a little bit, but it was also outside off and high. And he would always leave the ball on length. He just doesn't seem to be leaving the ball as well. In this series, he left it a lot better last test, but there was really only one of the 6 matches that he played where he left the ball really well. And he would just leave it on length. Even if it was straight, he'd go over middle and leg and he would just leave it. Whereas here, there's no chance of him leaving that. And I think he's worried about some of them staying low and stuff like that, compared to very much trusting of the Australian wickets. So, unfortunately for Marnus, that just gives him, leaves him a little bit susceptible to certain balls just outside off, where he's actually playing at them rather than leaving them there. And that's causing him some issues. So, unfortunately, he went down. Smith and Head come together, really creating a lovely partnership. And just, it wasn't too long before Smithy ended up getting out at 54. The incident happened with Ben Stokes, and as I said, there's so many things going on, and there's probably 3 examples now. 2 of them have been in this Ashes series, and one was Herschel Gibbs back in the day in the World Cup semi-final, I believe, against Australia there. And I think it might have been Steve Waugh that actually asked and go, hey, apparently it was the thing that he was always doing, where he wouldn't even completely take control of a catch. He would just have it in his hands and throw it straight up. So yes, you'd say he controlled it, because you'd drop it otherwise. Like, it would hit your side of your hand, it would fall to the ground or something like that. So before he'd completely get control of it, he'd throw it up. So just be in the one motion. You see Starkey's one, and they say that he wasn't in complete control because he was diving, and putting the ball on the ground, even though he had complete control of it, is not out. So when that's happened, and then this Stokes thing's happened, and you see his reaction straight after, he's obviously clearly caught the ball. He's come down, he's on one foot, and he hasn't got his other foot on the ground. And before he's done that, he's obviously went to celebrate, and he's whacked his leg, and the ball's fallen out. And his reaction straight away just proved that he knew that he was in a little bit of trouble, and he may have just dropped Smithy, which is obviously probably our biggest wicket by far. Not our best player average wise in this series, but we know what his quality is. So, for him to know that it was an issue, yes, everyone can blow up and stuff, but he already knew he was in trouble and he wasn't going to be able to claim that catch. And then, the interestingness of them reviewing it and stuff, I like to the naked eye live, he caught it, and I think they went away from him. They looked back at Smithy and then straight to the umpire for the decision, and I didn't even realize that he'd actually dropped it. So that was the next thing. So we had the ball saga, we had Stokesy there, and from this point it's like, okay, let's just get through. If Smithy can bat for a long time, then Australia are in a cracking position. And unfortunately we lose Head at 264, so left 120 to play with there, or 115, whatever it is, 120, almost 120 to get from when Head got out. So just before that, you're sitting there going, Head and Smith are having a cracker of a partnership there, 43 and 54 each. Basically, Smithy was just about 50 at that point. And, if they stay together, Aussies win. They don't stay together, unfortunately, and then Smithy gets out not long after that. And I actually thought, watching live, that Smith seemed completely fine against the pace. And it was Moeen Ali that was going to cause a few issues there, and he ended up nicking it on off his glove and getting caught dropped by Stokes there, and he eventually ended up getting out to Wokes, and that makes sense. He's just bowling so well, and it was a good ball. We can't say too much about that. Travis Head's one, Moeen Ali spinning the ball big on that one. It was almost a half volley. He was hands were a little bit away from his body. It is how he plays it, but his head was a little bit too far away, and when it's spinning away like that, you're getting plenty of bouncing and turn off the rough there. It makes it very, very tough for him to get through it. Mitch Marsh, pretty good ball. Can't do too much about that. He got obviously a fine nick onto his thigh pad there, but absolutely incredible catch from Besto. And he ended up getting a few decent catches there. He got Warner. He got that one there off Marsh. He ended up with the Alex Carey one and Todd Murphy to finish there for 2 good wickets for Stewie Broad. So along with his good batting in this test match, he actually caught well. So, congrats to Besto. And just makes sense there that he needed some time to get good with his keeping, just because he had been out of the game for so long. So, he's more of a natural batsman, obviously, rather than a natural keeper. So it was, made sense that batting was going to come back to him first, and then keeping, following that. So Marsh went down, and that caused some issues. Then it ended up being 6 down, and then Stark got out straight away. So 275 for 7, and plenty of trouble. Pat Cummins goes after that. We needed Pat to kind of stick there for a 30-odd. Unfortunately, he went for 9, and that left Murphy with Carey. And Todd was doing great. And again, it then needed just one more partnership from those two. Todd got 30-odd in the first innings and 18 here, so it shows that. What I really noticed with him is just how good he was off the short ball. Absolutely pumping boundaries. A couple of 6s last inning, sorry. And 3 4s in this one, especially all through the leg side. So good stuff from Murph there. Just wasn't enough though. Got a nice ball from Stewart. Really, really good. And that finished off then with Carey playing missing for a couple, and Brody getting him to finish the test match there at 334, 49 short. Unfortunately, and Carey just hasn't been able to kick on, and I suppose at this point it was 9 down, and he was doing his job, but unfortunately not his best test series batting wise, and we'll go through those stats as we go now. So now we'll kind of take this video into more of like an overall Ashes series, and kind of relay it back to what I spoke about in the preview as to a lot of the bowlers and the batsmen. So we're going to kick it off with the bowling side of things first. And the guy that I was pushing to get in this test team for England, I thought was someone that we were going to have to worry about. It was actually Chris Wokes, and he ended up with the best average by far, getting 5 for in this test match. He was incredible. Actually, we drop down to that now. So sorry, Wokes got 4, he got 5 for the match, I believe. Is that right? We're going at 2.5 and over. 4 for 50 off 19. Incredible work. Stuart Broad, the couple at the end. Anderson just couldn't find a wicket, unfortunately, for him. So hopefully when they go to India, he'll be better for it. Moeen Ali, I think he'll be happy to finish his test career on that. So he's re-retired. It's a funny tweet. It was a funny comment he ended up saying. He goes, if Stokes messaged me again, I'll delete the text. Fair enough. Woody obviously carrying a bit of an injury with his heel, it turned out to be. 9 overs, 1 for 34. Did his job, got 1 wicket. Wokesy and Brody kind of carrying the pace attack in that one. So, let's get to the averages now. And this is the bowling side. So, Wokes, I spoke about him at 18 average, even better than what he normally averages in England there, which is really, really good. 5 for 62 was his best bowling figures. And then you had Wood. He came in. He actually did a lot better than I thought he would. So, he was the one that's stood out, obviously, as the bowlers in England that kind of really improved on his average. He was averaging 42 with the ball and did a great job, and would have done better if he didn't cop that injury in this one. So obviously both those guys coming in test 3 doesn't shock me, right? That they got better from winning the 3rd and winning the 5th here, and should have won the 4th there with those 2 guys coming back in. So really, really good decisions to get them guys in, and very, very impressive. Murphy played the 2 test matches, but he's up there on best average with 25 with 7 wickets, so 7 for 181 off his 32 overs. So he came on, and for the most part later on in an innings, and obviously that allowed him to get an opportunity to get some wickets, sure. But he was solid in the overs that he got. He didn't get a lot of chances, obviously, with 32 overs in 4 innings of bowling. Very, very low, especially when you look at, Moeen Ali didn't bowl that much, but he still had, he played 4 matches. He didn't really get to bowl a lot in 2 of them, in a couple of innings especially, and he still got 126 overs as their main spinner. So Yeah, very, very interesting there. Starkey got the 23 wickets, so he ended up outdoing Broad by the one with his great wicket-taking efforts and averaging 27. A little bit better than what he normally does in England. So, yeah, a really, really good story, as I said, and a player of the series. Got a few runs as well. Most wickets for Starkey. Ollie Robinson, the 3 matches, 10 wickets. He ended up still having an average of 28. So, yeah, you look at games and it's like, he wasn't super threatening, but then you look at the end and he had 2 for 60 or something like that off his 20. And you go, okay, that's actually not too bad. Like, it just didn't look like he was a world beater, but then he did really well. And Brody had the same average at 28.41, just 1.01 worse than that of Robinson, but 22 wickets for him in his last Ashes Test series. He was the only person out of everyone to bowl in 10 innings, which is really, really cool. So good on him. Solid strike rate at 44, obviously. 164 overs. He bowled the most out of everyone. Yeah, by a good way, actually. 145 for Pat was next, but he's a long way down that list. So very, 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 very well done to Brody. Joe Root did his thing. He averaged 28 as well. Good stuff for him. Lathan Lyon only playing a couple. He had a really nice average for where he's normally at on pitches that were, didn't take a lot of spin in that first couple of games, but he did great. Stokesy, and he didn't bowl too many. He bowled 29 overs in the end, which is interesting. I thought it'd be a bit less. Josh Tongue bowled in the one good test. But here's where the issue lies. And it's in the Australian bowlers. So we've got Scott Boland playing 2 matches there, 115 average. Not great on that one. You had Anderson, obviously, who played 4 of them, and he had a little bit of trouble with his average as well. Moeen Ali, 51, and Anderson. They're really the 2 bowlers from the England side of things, but guys that bowl a good amount of overs there for the Australians. Scott Boland, Cameron Green there. Mitch Marsh didn't bowl a lot, so we can't say too much about him, but those 2 guys there bowled 45 and 47 overs respectively. Travis Head down there low at 18, but Pat Cummins here and Hazelwood. Our 2 best bowlers, our 2 best pace bowlers there, going for a 31.7 average in Hazelwood and a 37.7 for Pat with the ball. So both took some wickets, but bowled a lot of overs. Obviously Hazelwood the 98, Pat the 145, and we usually expect better from Pat. He's very much a 20-21 average guy in England, so this didn't suit him as much. He had one really, really good test match, and other than that, okay, to be honest with you. Like, obviously things didn't fall his way all the time, but he was just okay for the most part, unfortunately, there with the ball. So that's that side, and you just see, obviously, there that it was all just the majority of the bowling was better for England, and that's why they pretty well ended up winning 3 test matches, and should have won 3 test matches in the end there. Let's go to the runs now, and we see the openers from Australia in 2 different spots. We had Uzi at number 1, Warner at number 3, and then it's very interesting to see that Crawley was number 2 and Duck at number 10. So, yeah, both teams, you can see why it was fairly close overall, because you had the two openers there in Khawaja there and Crawley, both scoring a very similar amount of runs and averaging a very similar amount, which obviously gets both teams off to a good start and shows why it was fairly close. So Khawaja the 50, just under 50 average, unfortunately, in the end, 49.6, and Crawley 53.3. So Crawley really stood up, and I think he obviously proved the difference in these test matches. You look at Khawaja and what his average was in the last couple of years, and this is just basically where he was averaging. A little bit under where he would, but you'd expect him to drop down a little bit in England, just because it's a bit harder to bat than the other places he's been playing in. Crawley really stepped up and was massive for England. You look at Duckett at the 35.6, and it's probably expected from him. Bairstow, I was thinking about a 40 average as well. Harry Brook, I said, with the X factor, and he was in certain games, so a 40 average for him makes sense. He was never one to go on for a big score, and that's why his average is that little bit lower. Unfortunately for the Australians, 37 for Smith is the very low average there. And then we have Marnus at 32.8. So our 2 best batsmen not scoring anywhere near, not averaging anywhere near what they were last time they were in England. And obviously Smith would be pretty disappointed with his 37 averages. He got a 70-odd and a 50-odd here in this test match, and showed that his average was in the low 30s before those scores. And Marnus, apart from that one test match, the 4th one, where he hit a 50-odd and 111, his average was very low also. So both of our 2 best batsmen, unfortunately, weren't able to get the job done. Travis Head was 36, and you'd probably take that. Again, Head, Brook, very comparable in there at 40 and 36. Yeah, Ben Stokes averaged 45, did a really, really good job in certain games. Obviously, we know what those games were. And Joe Root, the 51s. He really outdid Smith and also Labuschagne, and again, proved the reason why they were slightly ahead for the most part in these test matches. And Aussie kind of really held the fort down for the Australians, which is very, very helpful. As I said, we've got the bowling side. Probably England, we're just a little bit, England's bowlers overall were a little bit better. And then you'd say the same for the batting side. It was just a lot of mediocrity, sort of 30s and 40s average for the Australians. You come down to David Warner. He came into England averaging 26 when he plays there. Ended up at 28.5. So, yeah, again, fairly average on that front. Mitch Marsh averaged 50, which was great. Again, he proved the difference in one of those games there as well. Alex Carey averaged 22.2 in the end. So we're hoping for him to be in the 30s. And again, most of the Aussie batsmen just were a little bit under where they should have been, unfortunately. And it shows that, with, as I said, England kind of dominating both statistics, bowling, and also the batting there. It just showed that, Aussies were able to win those close games. And for the most part, England have dominated the stat sheets. So there you go. Moeen Ali, 25 with his bat. Cummins much better with the 23. Cam Green just needing to still improve, unfortunately for him. Batting wise, average 20, not the worst in the end. One not out. Yeah, one not out of his 6 innings, 38 the highest score. So yeah, we definitely need him to improve on that front. You had Wokes in there with a 19 average, Starkey and Wood all solid there with Popey 22. And then you go down to obviously get the bowlers from there, and that doesn't really matter too much. Any batters? No batsmen in there. Most of the batters kind of played the whole time, didn't they? So yeah, that's the stats for the Ashes. 2023 Ashes, and how did it go compared to the preview? Look, I had the Australians actually winning 2-1. Turns out it was a 2-2 draw. Could have been worse from there, but I did expect a couple of rained off draws, and we almost got there again in this one with a fair bit of a rain delay at lunch there. And I suppose that's all I've really got to say about the Ashes at the moment. Thank you very much for coming and joining me across this journey of analysing and reacting to all of the Ashes days. It's been a lot of fun. We will be doing some reactions to obviously some of the World Cup as well. We have the Australian Summer, the Big Bash League. I'll be doing some Big Bash Supercoach chat as well, which will be really cool. But again, thank you for being here. And this one has been an absolutely incredible series. And I can't wait to make more videos for you. See you later.